Right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hussein Mahadi, and I'm our moderator for today's session on artificial intelligence and technology. As we all know, today is the first day of the first quarter of 2023 Artificial Intelligence and Technology Program for JIIPCC. So the topic we'll be having for today is AI ethics and governance. And we are very happy to have one of our mentors already on board with us, Mr. Gabriel Udo. Good afternoon to you from Nigeria. Thank you, everybody, for joining this session. Thank you, Precious Obianuju, for putting on your videos. Kindly note that you are all advised to put on your videos while the session is going on because we are streaming live. So quickly, I hope we all are having a good day. I'll be making some announcements before our mentors will start the lecture for today on the topic AI ethics and governance. So quickly hold on while I share my screen. The first announcement is that JIIPCC mentorship and internship program registration for still this quarter is still currently ongoing. You can share the link with your friends and loved ones, anyone who is interested in registration should register. As you can see, the areas we have mentorship sessions is in intellectual property, artificial intelligence and technology, energy industry, fintech, health tech and law, patent drafting, and in the latest course, which is blockchain, NFTs, and metaverse. And also, you can register for the 30-minute one-on-one mentorship sessions with your favorite mentor on the program by registering through the link or sending a DM to me or either of the administrators of JIIPCC. Quickly, I'll be telling us what JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program is all about and some of our objectives right there on the screen. JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program is a quarterly program for students and young professionals across Africa. Mentees are afforded the opportunity to access valuable advice, training, network, mentorship, internship, discussion forums, industry updates, and resource materials from experienced mentors. The program seeks to encourage continuous training, development, and evolution in Africa and around the world. You can watch our videos by searching for JIIPCC on YouTube and Facebook, hashtag JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program. Some of the objectives of the program is to provide easy access to quality professional guidance, training, and resource materials for students and young professionals in Africa, to facilitate dialogue and network among experienced and less experienced practitioners and stakeholders, transform mentees into mentors and leaders for the next generation, and finally to facilitate further mentorship, internship, scholarship, and job placements for the mentees. So that's what JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program is all about. Quickly, we'll be moving on to our mentors. Let me introduce our mentors for today. Our first mentor is Dr. Gabriel Udo and Mr. Akin Agumbiade. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are very happy to have you on the session on the topic AI ethics and governance. So this is how the program is going to go today. Our mentors will first give us some lectures on the topic, and the groups will also make their presentation, and afterwards the mentors will comment and answer the questions before we wrap up the session. So I'll call on Mr. Gabriel Udo to start his talk right now.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, all right. It seems this is the first time most of us are meeting this year, so Happy New Year. I can gladly say that, even though it's towards the end of January. It's very nice to see all of you once again. It's good to see Kamalu Gottlof. I haven't seen you in so many years. It's really exciting to see you here. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Juliana.
Thank you, sir.
the invitation. Thank you, Hussein, for the introduction and for always being here. Thank you, Precious, and every other person I can see.
Sir.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, someone else has popped up. Angelina, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And like I mentioned to Juliana, when we had the conversation, I always learn a lot of things, and I'm always very happy to be here. I'm just going to spend maybe 5 minutes because I mean, for just the introductions, and I realized I looked at some of the presentations that has been sent to me earlier, and I realized that you guys have gone really far. There's a lot of grounds that have been covered in discussions concerning AI ethics and governance. Just about an hour ago, I was having a conversation with a professor just before this meeting, and he made mention of the fact that AI is becoming so disruptive, and unfortunately, we were not ready for it. This is one of the disadvantages with the pace of artificial intelligence, the growth of AI and technology generally. And this leads me to the first thing, that these conversations are really important, and this is the best time to have them, especially for those of us from African countries and from other countries that are not deemed to be at the same pace with others with regards to development of artificial intelligence. The problems that other parts of the world are having now, most other parts of the world are having now with artificial intelligence is, based on the fact that there's the pace of development is so high that legislations are trailing them. Normally, there should be laws to prevent things from happening, but in this case, things are already happening. And for instance, the very recent JIIPCC that I'm sure everyone has an idea about of now, has come with a lot of disruption. Even in the academia, you hear professors saying they don't know the difference between what a student has written and what has been generated by JIIPCC or some of these other tools. I remember late last year when we had in one of our conversations here, I mentioned, I know the question somebody asked, if I recall very well, whether AI is capable of taking our jobs, and especially for those of us that are lawyers. And I said, yeah, it's very likely going to happen. It may not, if you don't upscale, you just get lost. At some point, you get so frustrated, you get out of the way. And this, some people had the argument, people still have that argument that it's not possible. There's a limit to what AI can do. There's a limit to what we can put in ones and zeros. There's a limit to, but sincerely, I think shortly after the conversation, we had the JIIPCC and the conversation changed. And then sometime 2 weeks ago, I heard, we read how a robot lawyer was going to argue things in court. So we are beginning to see the signs of this. And once again, the best time to have these conversations is now, towards helping ourselves to upskill and towards providing ethical frameworks, because these things also come with problems. Today we'll be hearing issues, many issues, ethical issues especially, that come from the non-regulation of artificial intelligence, lack of transparency, for instance, especially in research and in other governance tools, issues with non-neutrality, many of these issues. We're going to hear most of them in the presentation. So I'm really happy that I see so many people here. And like I said, and like I've always said, the best time to have this conversation is now. And when we're done with this conversation, I think we should also try to spread. It should be more like a gospel. It should be more like a message. We are getting into a situation where the whole world is getting sunk in situations that we're not prepared for. This is one advantage, again, that I think some of us in Africa should have now, because the pace of development is not that much. We can learn from those who have gone ahead and start having these frameworks in place and start having ethical considerations, not just in how we use the systems, but in how we advise others. Because most of us as lawyers, we get into AI policy. I see so many people on LinkedIn now, they've changed their profiles to artificial intelligence and law. So it's a good thing. I really wish everyone gets to have an idea of how these things work. So as much as we can spread it out, because in the next couple of years or in the next couple of months, even there are going to be job losses. Of course, we've already had some of those. And believe me, most of the jobs that have been lost by the tech companies are because these jobs, they've realized that these jobs can be automated. No matter what the tech companies tell you, that's the basic, that's the background of all of it. If you look at the people that have lost their jobs, most of those jobs, programmers, software designers, product managers, most of those things can be automated. And these companies have realized that at the pace we are going with artificial intelligence, we are getting to a point that so many people are not going to be needed. So this is the time to know, to understand what we need to do. This is the time to create a governance, to create governance and ethical frameworks to ensure that while we develop artificial intelligence projects or products, we do this in an ethical manner. We consider the effect of artificial intelligence on humanity and on people. Now people have lost their jobs. You can imagine the effect, especially in the US. Foreigners that went there with working visas, now they have to go back home with their families and all sorts of things. So we need to put all this in perspective while we're developing these systems and while we're advising companies that develop these systems. So once again, thank you very much. It's always nice to be here. I hope to learn a lot from all of you too. And thank you for the presenters. I read through the presentations and it's quite impressive. So I hope we have a good time today. Thank you so much. Hussein?
Thank you very much, Mr. Gabriel, for that talk, that short talk. We'll also be calling on Mr. Akin to also give us his own insights on the topics before we call on our presenters to make their presentation. Mr. Akin, if you are still on the call, please. Okay, while we are waiting for Mr. Akin, I will quickly share our mentor's profile for us today. I will start with Mr. Gabriel Udo. Gabriel Udo is a research fellow and doctoral candidate at the Faculty of Law, Europa University.
Sorry, Hussein. Do you mind?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Yeah. Do you mind if I read it? It looks a little. Is it okay if I read it myself?
Yes.
Okay, I think that would be better. Okay, I'll just read what you have on the screen. Gabriel Udo is a research fellow and doctoral candidate at the Faculty of Law, Europa Universität Vienna, Frankfurt Oder in Germany, and recently won the Deutsche Akademische Auslandsdienst funded position, that's the DAD, funded position under the VIP Fellowship Program for the research project Intelligent Weaponry, Law and Ethics. His research specialties are centered mostly on artificial intelligence and law, weapons technology, smart city technologies, and international humanitarian law, then robotics and autonomous weapon systems. Currently, Gabriel is a Beyond Fellow in the ethics group of of the Artificial Intelligence for Earth Observation Lab at the International AI Future Lab in Technische Universität in Munich. He holds a master's degree in international law and has several certifications in machine learning, Python, and artificial intelligence programming for data analytics, UAVs and small robotics, and also has several publications in both local and international journals, having presented papers in India, Sweden, Austria, and others in these research areas. At leisure, Gabriel plays piano, chess, and develops programs with Python, and also listens to music. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for assisting me on that, sir. So I'll also be reading our second mentor's profile immediately before he comes on board. Akin Agumbide is an AI researcher with a focus on policy, ethics, and governance. He's also a for humanity certified AI system auditor under the UK EU GDPR, the first African to be certified as such. So thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. Aki. The floor is yours to give us your presentation and lecture. I don't know if Mr. Akin is with us. Please kindly indicate by unmuting yourself and saying hello. Okay, while we are waiting for Mr. Akin, I'll call on the group to start their presentation. We'll start with the group one. I hope the group one presenter for today is ready. Yes, okay, so kindly share your screen and introduce yourself and start your presentation.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm Kamalu
Hello.
and I'll be presenting for Group 1 this afternoon. I'll be sharing my screen with us briefly. Okay, I hope you can all see that.
Yeah, it's loading.
Is it on now, please?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so for Group 1, we have the topic AI governance and regulations. And it was quite an interesting research for us because we got to learn a lot of new things about the AI and also its governance and regulations. We'll start with, basically, we have our content. I want to skip from that straight onto artificial intelligence. So as a group, during our research, we had some definitions of AI, and we believe one problem we have with AI is the fact that there's no generally accepted definition of the AI as a whole, and which is one problem also affecting regulations for AI, because we do not have a concrete definition when it comes to AI. But while trying to find out something about AI, we came across all these definitions, and we thought about working with them and also expanding them. So we asked ourselves, what is AI then? Basically, AI is a development or an algorithm that allows computers to handle or to actually carry on activities or tasks that humans would normally do. And then I started thinking, if AI allows computers, or is computers being programmed to carry out tasks or activities humans will actually do, who are the ones programming this AI? Humans. So in other words, I can say AI is humans actually understanding their own intelligence through computers. I don't know if anyone gets that with me, because the fact is humans are trying to understand why do we think this way? Why do we act this way? So if we tell our computers to do exactly that, that means we're expecting this result. So majorly humans will do this to get this result. And as such, they give that same intelligence to computers to carry out those tasks on behalf of humans. I'm trying to be fast with it so we don't waste too much time because we want to go straight into governance. Looking at AI then, of course, in our recent society, we have different types of AI. We have the Google Assist. Google Assist is just the same thing we have with Siri. When you say, hello, Siri, turn on the lights sometimes of our phones, call Mr. A, call Mr. B, or go to YouTube, send a message. These are all AI algorithms, or actually AIs that help our lives get easy. So Gabriel mentioned about the JIIPCC already. Basically, JIIPCC is a kind of algorithm or platform where people get to have responses to questions. Some students also get to have put in some assignment questions and get some astute answers to those questions. I think that's why Mr. Gabriel has come with the problem with AI, whereby lecturers no longer know who's actually answering those questions. Actually, students from their own knowledge or from the computer. I wish I had this when I was still in school. Some lecturers. Okay, then we also have YouTube recommendations. For most of us who are YouTubers, we know the fact that if someone keeps on looking at a particular kind of video, for example, I work a lot with fashion law and I see a lot of things in the fashion space. Right now, when I turn on my YouTube, the first videos that come through are videos that have to do with fashion or law. That tells you that there's also an AI that allows the YouTube to gather this algorithm about your usage and also give you those kind of research or those kind of outputs when you want to use it. And then we have the word tune. The word tune basically similar to the chat GPT, but quite different. The word tune is like Grammarly. While Grammarly is an AI that helps you to cross-check your grammatical errors, the word tune is an AI that helps you to actually write papers or write things you want written. For example, if you have a word tune, when you log on to the word tune, you tell it exactly what you're trying to write about, give it some basic info, and then it actually comes up with everything you would love to write about that. So moving on, we have self-driving cars, autopilots. That's, for example, Tesla. Tesla makes us enjoy this. I hope one day we get to have enough money to get myself a Tesla. Okay, we've looked at AI and basically what it implies, also types of AI. But then whatever has its merit also has some demerits. That brings us to the risks of AI. AI, as far as it's amazing, it has really helped human life. It has made our lives easier. AI did not come to alienate humans basically from their jobs, but then to make life easier. It's just that right now, humans are employers of labor, basically, are the ones enjoying AI to a very good extent, because AI, although it didn't come to alienate humans so much, carrying on tasks, with the introduction of most AI, for example, Mr. Gabriel also mentioned something that happened recently. I think it was yesterday. An AI legal assist was meant to appear in court, but then it's not going to appear in court in a matter because of some issues with, I think, AI and the governance that goes with it. So imagine a lawyer who was meant to actually appear in court for a client, and then you've been told that, sorry, you'll not be appearing in court because we now have an AI that can do that for you. So what are the risks of AI? Risks of AI has been put into different categories. We have the unacceptable risks. These are risks basically that are clear threats to human safety, livelihood, and the rights of people. Once any AI is shown to be a complete contravention or breach of someone's fundamental rights or someone's safety or livelihood, that AI is considered as an unacceptable risk. That's a risk that should not be allowed or should be an algorithm that should not be worked on to put an AI on. For example, let's look at, there's an AI that, think of an AI that can handle open heart surgery. Basically, when an AI is programmed or given an algorithm that makes it to understand how to go on with an open heart surgery, a normal human, a normal doctor would know the fact that sometimes surgeries do not go as expected. And as such, you try new procedures during a surgery. But then an AI that actually has a particular flow as to the algorithms in the AI, it might then accept that this human cannot make it. And that's basically unacceptable because we have the right to life, and that contravenes normal human life. We have the high-risk AI. High-risk AI is another level of the risks for AI. Now, these are AIs basically that are, I'll try to mention a few that are quite much. We have critical infrastructures, for example, transportation. As Tesla has the AI that handles autopilot, these are actually a high risk because someone could actually hack most of these AIs. Imagine someone is driving to the airport and then your autopilot vehicle gets hacked. Let's imagine where you're going to appear. I hope not Sambisa Forest still. Then we have educational and vocational trainings. Some AI that actually determine the lives of the span of people's education as far what they're meant to attain when it comes to academics. These are AI that actually score exams. Again, there are lecturers who tend to mark scripts and feel like, okay, this student actually understands what they were going through or going to, maybe they did not hit the benchmark. And I feel like probably we could just allow this particular one go. But then it's a high risk because having an AI that actually scores exams, again, there can be AIs with bad algorithm. And then if someone who was probably meant to have a pass mark in an exam, an AI with a bad algorithm at that particular point can actually affect the person's life completely. We have AI as well for employment, recruitment purposes. These AIs also can actually have a show of bias. Maybe the algorithm has more potentials to men and then favors more of the men. That's bias and discrimination by virtue of sex. Law enforcement AIs, we're told right now we have an AI that was going to handle court cases. What happens where the case actually takes a different turn and then the AI doesn't have the algorithm to handle that? I'll move on to limited risks. Basically, limited risks are AIs that are actually more transparent. They allow you to know when to use them and when to stop. Basically, their usage is bent on the user's ability to continue or refusal to continue. At least these ones have some limited level of risks to humans. You can know when you want to continue or not. And then finally, minimal risk AI. These are AIs that majorly there's no much risk to them. The European Union actually has most of these AIs being used there. We have video games, for example, we have spam filters. These are AIs that when you're playing your game, it actually allows you to play games, have fun. There's basically no damage per se to your personal information as we have. So I want to move quickly to our main discuss for today, and that is AI governance and regulations. Basically, when we have the amazing concept of AI, we've seen its advantages and now disadvantages. So to curb this, what then are we meant to do? That's why AI governance is brought in. AI governance, basically, corporations know the fact that where the AI they are bringing out is not really being regulated properly or having governance to handle this particular kind of AI. Lawsuits are sure going to happen. It's going to affect also the public trust in them. So what then are they meant to do in that particular situation? Bring forth governance that helps to regulate the AI. So we ask ourselves again, what's AI governance? AI governance basically are frameworks. AI governance are basically principles, policies put together basically by organizations and companies that allows them to actually have their AIs for the best possible use. Because majorly, the major thing about AI is about proper use, responsible use. That's the function of the AI governance for corporations, for companies. Just like we have corporate governance, that's one very good example of AI governance. As a corporate governance is also part of a company, AI governance also allows corporations to bring forth policies that are in line with their ethical principles for the company or for that corporation. Then what are regulations? Regulations are embodiment of rules, laws made by law-making bodies. These are bodies that are enshrined by law to actually make rules. For example, if a rule or a law is made by the National Assembly, the Senate, the House of Rep in Nigeria, these rules are seen as AI regulations, or even the state legislature, as long as these rules are brought in from the public sectors that handle or regulate this particular space. I don't want to go so much into the difference because we'll discuss that later. On our slide, so we have, why then should we adopt AI for countries? We've seen the fact that when you have AI governance rather in a country or in an organization, it limits the level of reputational risks you're going to have, the financial implication of paying for damages. So why would a company not have AI governance? It helps to limit the risks you bring to your company. Then we went as well to look at as per AI regulations and governance. Just let me go up so you can get it's completely the scope of AI governance and regulations. Looking at the slide we have there, one thing AI governance or AI, responsible AI, do not forget AI governance is for responsible use of AI. So we look at 5 principles, and the COSA gave 5 principles for responsible AI. Accountability. How accountable is your AI? When something goes wrong with the AI you're putting for, who is going to be accountable for that? Transparency. Is your AI transparent enough? Do I have a time to say I'm no longer moving forward with this particular AI I'm using? How safe is the AI? How safe is my private data that I've logged into your AI? How safe is what I put to that AI app, into that AI software? How safe is it? That's for safety. Or could someone have my personal data and come to my house to hunt me at night? Then we have fairness. AI has always had an issue with regards to bias. AI governance says, okay, fine, to have responsible use of AI, we have to make sure the AI is fair enough for use. And then robustness. Are you using AI to the best of its ability? AI governance allows you to use AI to the best of its ability, as well as to the best of your own ability. Now, while preparing, I had this idea in my head. When you actually use AI, you use AI to the best of your ability when you know how to use AI. When you know how to use AI with the right governance, with the right regulations, you know how to use AI to the best of the AI's ability, which means you can use AI to its fullest without having any issues, because you now know how to regulate AI and also the governance for AI. So There's very simple breakdown. So AI should be safe and effective. The algorithm should not discriminate. The algorithms, the personal data should be protected. You should be aware when you're using your AI. You should also have a right to opt out from using that particular AI. So majorly, that's the scope of AI governance and regulations to ensure that we enjoy all these from the AI we also want to flow with. Next, why should countries adopt AI governance and regulations? We cannot scream AI governance, AI regulations, and then corporations and companies are not adopting it. Compliance with AI ethics. There are principles of AI ethics. If these principles are followed to the letter, every corporation would have a complete compliance with AI, compliance with the regulations meant for AI. And then when we ask ourselves these questions, that's why for AI governance, there have been some major breakdown of how corporations can actually govern their AI. We have the ethics regulatory board that corporations push through. This regulatory boards ensure that an AI being used is complying with the principles and the instant regulations in that particular corporation and in the country or state as a whole. Then we have, sorry, that's not on the slide, but we have the COE, Center of Excellence. This Center of Excellence, their job basically is to go forward, do research, learn more about AI, bring forth these learnings you've gotten, and teach for best practices. This also helps to comply with AI ethics. We have data science. Data science basically is the data of the algorithm that is being imputed into an AI for different versions or different systems of AI. Now, there are groups of scientists or professionals who handle this data science. What's their job? To ensure that the data science they're using is properly functional. If we have a regulation, a corporation that actually has a good understanding of their data science, they'll comply more with the ethics. And then finally, ML operations, that's the machine learning operations. They provide data to the data science team for them to analyze it to be sure that it actually complies with AI ethics. Also, we have increase in public trust. Here's the truth. If an AI shares my public information, or my private information rather, to the entire world, I would go online and I would drag them to fail. Twitter is our best friend for dragging right now. You go online and you say, this happened to my data, that happened to my information. Let's look at Facebook. Let's say tomorrow, Facebook has all the information, all your private data you have given to Facebook out in the public. Do you think the world will want to continue using Facebook? In 30 minutes, no, in 20, maybe 10 minutes, the entire number of Facebook users will drop because it will be deemed that Facebook is no longer trustworthy to be used. That's the good thing of adopting AI governance and regulations. Then reduction in lawsuits and unethical practices. Where a corporation, a company has adopted AI governance and regulations, of course, it's going to reduce the lawsuits you're going to have. Mr. A would not sue you because you have a defense. Probably Mr. A did not use your AI properly that led to his own information being affected or something. You have done your best practices for your AI because you've adopted the right AI governance and the regulations. You're working with them to ensure that you are using the best practices. You're also going to reduce your lawsuits, reduction of infringements and AI risks. Of course, these two are together. When lawsuits are reduced, when you have less infringements due to moving in accordance with governance, of course, you relax some more, you get to rest some more. Everybody wants to rest while working. So when you're sure that you're not infringing any rights or any AI risks, you get to have less lawsuits. And finally, development and better application of AI. The moment you adopt a governance of AI or regulation of AI, you tend to make sure that you enjoy AI to the best of its ability. Do not forget I said something. When you understand AI, you use the AI to the best of your ability. But when you understand how to regulate AI, you use AI to the best of the AI's ability. I hope that sinks in. We have some statistics of countries that are really doing so well in the AI space. We're going to look at the first three. That's the United States. The United States has a Bill of Rights for artificial intelligence. This Bill of Rights actually looks into fairness, non-bias for AI. I think they are at the forefront of regulations for AI use. Then from nowhere in Asia, we have a giant that are coming forth. Singapore came with a new regulation for AI, and it's really breathtaking in a good way. It's also really innovative to the fact that they have seen the need to regulate their AI and have brought in new regulations. And then we have the United Kingdom. United Kingdom for a while have been doing so well in the AI space. They have the AI liability regulations. These are basically regulations or directives. It was actually a bill to ensure that AI is also used to its best use. You can see the statistics. It's so heartbreaking though that there's no African country there for now, because Africa, they say we are always lagging behind, but trust me, with people like Mr. Gabriel, I think very soon we're doing so much better in the AI space. Difference between AI governance and regulation. We broke it down simply. AI regulations are laws, policies that are put together by the right bodies of government, given ensuring with the right or the ability to actually handle those things. For example, in corporate law, we have CAMA. CAMA is a regulation, one regulations governing the use of companies and company-related matters. Same thing for AI. These AI governance, AI regulations are those laws. For example, I talked about in the United States, we have the Bill of Rights of AI. That's a regulation. We have the AI liability directives that's a bill in Europe. That's another kind of regulation. Then AI governance. AI governance majorly is with regards to organizational structures, companies, organizations, establishments that actually use AI. Just like, again, I was saying, in corporate law, we have corporate governance. Do not forget, so corporations are beginning to enshrine AI governance into their corporate governance. AI governance, basically, these are regulations, frameworks, principles, ethics that organizations get to use to help them use AI for reasonable and responsible. Okay, I think I've spoken about this, the three current legislations that we have, at least for our top three countries that are actually using AI. Okay, moving forward. Yes, case study. Hello, can you see hear me, please? Okay, thank you very much. Case studies. For time, I want to really focus on one. United States and Google incorporation. So majorly, there's a case where Google actually had an AI for use, and then United States felt like, no, this does not fall in line with our industry standard practices, because it had some lapses that could probably bring forth bias and lack of transparency and lack of fairness to us or to the United States as a country. And then the matter went to court, and of course, that AI was terminated for lack of proper use at that particular point. There are particular cases that actually have to do with corporations that have failed to use AI to the best of its ability. Okay, let's go down to the Chief of Constable of South Wales police issue. So now this was, they had AFR, that's the official face recognition, they were trying to get some criminals basically who had some issues, and then to look at how to get it to book. So they thought, how about we put some surveillance cameras around? This matter came to court, but because the matter was within the framework of AI, it was not affecting anyone's fundamental rights per se, because they were trying to protect the life and safety of citizens by bringing criminals to book. Please, I want to move really, really fast. Regulatory challenges of AI governance and regulations. What then are some challenges we have from using AI governance and AI regulations? Definitions. The law would not enshrine the law for something it can't define. The law wants to define something so they can actually give a law for it, because trust lawyers. Lawyers know how to look for lacuna in the law. If the law says something is either black or white, when something is pink but also does the same thing, when you read the law, you say, my lord, the law only defines it as black or white, no place for pink. So our regulatory bodies do not actually have a wide grasp of AI to give it proper definitions. Sorry to say, let's look at Nigeria. Go to the House of Reps, go to the Senate. Look at our big men at the top over there. Imagine asking these men to bring for regulations about AI. Let's imagine how that conversation is going to go. That's a food for thought. Think about that. With the lack of with the lack of definitions for this AI, it affects giving proper regulations to actually regulate the AI. AI life cycle and dynamics. The life cycle of AI is rapidly growing. Daily, AI is increasing. AI's use is getting bigger and better. And our law is lagging behind. It's creeping slowly behind it. In fact, we need laws that are working now, that are moving at the pace of AI. We're going to get there, but how long is that going to take? So that's affecting AI regulation to a very huge extent. Risks and innovations. When you look at the risks of the AI as well as in innovations of the AI, how do you put them pari passu each other? For example, some risks are unacceptable. If the regulation puts forward that a risk that's unacceptable should not be put forth, and then a risk is actually coming forth that is actually a good innovation that can help in the future. Again, an open heart surgeon that is an AI, who knows, with the right algorithms could actually do wonders. But then when there's a law that prescribes that as an unacceptable risk, that affects AI regulations as well as exploitation or exploration rather of AI, enforcement of some of these regulations. With the fact that even our courts do not have proper understandings of AI to a very good level, how then do we enforce laws that are not even enshrined or laws we do not even understand? For sure, we say ignoration non excusatiki. Of course, there's no excuse for you breaking a law. But then, how can you enforce a law? You don't fully grasp. The court doesn't know how to grasp the law to put it through. Our lawmakers don't really understand the law to put it through. Even the police do not understand this law to know, okay, it's been broken. You infringe upon, you bring someone to a police station and say, you infringe on my AI. The policeman at that point is not getting you. All he cares about is the money you're going to pay for bail where you're living. Then liability. Who is going to be held liable for most of this? So who is going to be liable for bringing forth some of this governance forth? That's how we've talked about the ethics boards. If so many corporations can bring in ethics board into their corporations, it is going to help them a whole lot. For time, I think I want to quickly stop here. In conclusion, AI is beautiful. AI is wonderful. But as much as AI is beautiful and is wonderful, there are risks with AIs. There are some of these risks we can't really handle now. But these risks we do not really want to entertain at the moment. So AI governance, AI regulations are going to help us to a whole level to manage these risks to a whole new level. And it's a recommendation that industries, organizations, countries adopt AI regulations and governance. If they do not have one that is functional, reach out to sister corporations, sister companies, sister states and countries. See how to adopt theirs into your state, your country, your corporation. But make sure you're reading through it to ensure that it's working with the principles and your company's ethics. At the end of this, we find that we'll use AI to the best of AI's ability. Thank you so much for the time to actually make this study. And I'm thanking to my group members also for helping us with this study. So thank you so much to our mentors and our wonderful hosts for today. That'll be all for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Goslov, for that in-depth, comprehensive, and very broad presentation on behalf of, is it group 1 or group 2?
Group 1, please.
Okay, group 1. On behalf of group 1, kudos to all group 1 members. I think you guys did a very good job. I'll still leave the remaining comments for our mentors for today to make. But thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. Just in case of next time, I just gave you the benefit of the first time. That was why you had enough time to finish your presentation. Presentation normally takes 10 minutes, so you have to just be very brief and hit the main points. So thank you very much. I'll be calling on group 2 to make their presentation also before Mr. Akin will talk to us. Group 2, Presenter, are you available? Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, let me just set myself up. I don't know, can you all see me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Washara Kabando. I am from Kenya and I will be presenting on behalf of Group 2. So let me share my screen. Okay, so sorry, my group was working on AI ethics, and just like a colleague from Group 1 has stated, he's introduced AI. So I will go straight to AI ethics. So I think most of us in the legal profession know what ethical values are, and basically AI ethics are the guidelines set in designing AI systems. So basically, what are the principles, what are the values to be followed, and so on. So we looked at a few principles for AI ethics. The first one was respect for persons. So we all know what consent is. And even when it comes to AI, when you're working with AI or when your data is picked by an AI system, your consent must be given, full consent that is. And also AI needs to be for the good of human beings. We cannot be the designers of AI to come and destroy humanity. We don't create robots to come and destroy humanity. AI must be based off doing no harm, as you can see there in the slide. And then also justice. So basically AI ethics in terms of the legal field, as you'll see in one of the two of the cases that I will go through later on, our AI ethics focuses on justice in terms of we're trying to use parameters that we as human beings have set ourselves, but because of super intelligence, as we'll see later on, we are trying to cut out any bias. I think an example of bias that I've seen in maybe not AI technology alone, but just technology as it is when you go to like a mall or a fancy restaurant and you go to the washroom and use a lavatory and clean your hands, and they have the sensor systems for where at the sink or even drying your hands or something like that. I have seen in not one case, but a couple of cases where there's racial bias. So where the systems are set to detect skin tones of a certain type, and they can't detect others. So I think those are some of the biases that started in the beginning until, I think now those biases are not there anymore, but those are some of the technological biases that AI needs to not have. So there are a number of issues that are at the forefront of ethical conversations surrounding AI technology, and one of them is technological singularity. So this is the super intelligence that I was talking about. So, So despite the fact that strong AI and super intelligence is not eminent in society, the idea of which raises some interesting questions as we consider the use of autonomous systems like self-driving cars. I think my understanding of this is, if the AI system is set by a human being, and what are the, when you're driving, your sense of braking, your sense of accelerating, how is this AI system able to tell, for example, in Africa, where traffic lights might not always work, how is this AI system supposed to tell when a traffic officer is letting the traffic go or stopping the traffic? So I think we as lawyers, we might not have all the answers for this, and that's why we have to liaise with the IT gurus. But these are some of the questions that, you know, come up when we're having these conversations. I think the most talked about issue is, are we going to lose our jobs? So for example, I think most of us know, this is not one of the cases we focused on, but we know of the first robot lawyer, the first AI lawyer, and the case is supposed to come up, I think, in March, where this robot has been set with a system where it will listen to the issues, it will listen to the matter, then you can defend yourself through an earpiece in court. Does that mean that us as lawyers will lose our jobs? Because that means we don't go to work. And the people who set up these systems might not always be lawyers. They might need our expertise, but maybe it might be one-off. How does this system? Because not all cases have the same outcome. They may be similar, sometimes they may be different. But how does a system that does not have the human nature detect, you know, how to defend, what to respond to, and all that? However, like even in, let's say, like vacuuming a house, you might not need your house manager to vacuum the house anymore because there is the robot vacuum. So that's the loss of a job. But then who's going to operate that robot vacuum when you're not there, if not your house manager? So our perspective was that AI is not here to eradicate, it's not here to eradicate human work or the jobs that we do. Rather, AI is here to make our work easier, and because we still need to be part of these systems, and we can never have a system that's 100%. We always need to have systems that are slowly, or rather going with the times, constantly developing, constantly changing, with new data that's being input into the system, comes out different outcomes and all that. So again, data privacy. This being the Data Privacy Week worldwide, I think this is a very touchy topic, because for these systems to work, especially like the first robot lawyer, well, your data needs to be input in the system if you're the client, for example. And if your data is in the system, what does it mean? How assured are you that your data is protected? How sure are you that your data will not be transmitted to other platforms? How sure are you that your data is going to remain, is going to be used, is going to be for one use only? I can go deep into data protection and the GDPR, and the, now in Kenya, for example, we use the Malabo Convention and all that. But basically, just to touch the surface, how sure are you that if you're using your car, which is AI enabled, that this is your car? Of course, it has your data. What happens when it gets into a car crash? What happens when the traffic police stops you? Who is charged? Can you charge the car that's AI based, or are you going to charge the owner of the car? And if you're charging the owner of the car, how does all that work? Like, because your data has to be there. So that's also something, that's also a big issue and a big question in this industry as well. And also, like I said, bias and discrimination, I'm not going to go over that again. And so these are the two cases that we looked at, yes? So in the first case, the judge used a tool called Compass, which works using a proprietary algorithm that considers some of the answers to the 137-item questionnaire. It was developed by a private company called Equivalent, formerly NotPoint, and it has been used in the United States, such as New York, Wisconsin, California, Florida, and other jurisdictions. I'm not going to dwell into how the jurisdiction of the United States works, but basically what happened is in determining the sentence of the person that was Eric Loomis, who was arrested because he was in a shootout using a car. He used this AI-enabled software system to give this alleged criminal a sentence to sentence him to. But now the thing is, in this particular situation, would you say that that's fair? Would you say that because it's not human? I don't want to say it's not entirely human enabled, but what are the perks of using a software system? And then also now the case of EWAD versus Canada. That's the second case that we went through. So in this particular case, I think maybe just for familiarity, we've watched a lot of movies, especially in the Western world, where if you're an immigrant and you're arrested, chances of an immigrant being arrested or even killed are way higher than that of, say, a white person, yes? So if you're of maybe darker skin than the whites, sorry to say, you're actually guilty until proven innocent in most cases. So here, as we wrote, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled for EWAD, holding that Correctional Services of Canada had not taken responsible steps to ensure and prove that its psychological and statistical algorithms that make decisions about Indigenous inmates are effective and free from any bias. So this is exactly what I was talking about. Same case with the motion sensor things for sets, yes? So just because you're of a certain descent, then there's that bias that's already been set on you long before you've even done anything. So these are some of the injustices and bias that we see when it comes to AI systems. However, I do believe that these are conversations that are ongoing, and there's things being put forward to ensure that these biases, which should not even be there in the first place. Really, in a perfect world, these are not conversations we need to be having. However, since we're already in the mud, we need to dust ourselves off, clean ourselves off, and work in the right direction. So that marks the end of my presentation today. I hope I kept a bit of time. Yeah, so I'd like to thank my group members for contributing to this, and also for the mentors and for the center as well for giving us this opportunity, and we hope to learn more moving forward. Yes.
Thank you very much, Wasira, for the presentation on behalf of Group 2. You did a very good job. Thank you very much, all the Group 2 members that came together to put up that presentation. So I'll be calling on Mr. Akin. I hope he's with us now and he can join the call to give us some comments on the topic. Okay, I can see Mr. Akin is on the call, but I don't know if you can hear me. Or maybe he's having a network issue, so Mr. Gabriel can just comment on the two groups' presentation before we go to question and answer sessions.
Okay, thank you very much, Hussein. And thank you to the presenters of both groups, God's Love and Wasira. Like I said earlier, I usually learn a lot of things from these conversations. There's still a lot more to learn. And the presentations were really comprehensive, tried as much as possible to cover as much areas as required within the time that was available for them. So I'll just point out a few things, either things that struck me in the course of the presentation. I'll begin with group 1. Nice presentation, very elaborate. I also want to quickly point out the issue with AI risk categorization. Godslov did mention that he saw some image of the nature of the categorization from the high risk AI to the unacceptable AI and all that. Now, this is usually the problem with that categorization. It's very, AI is becoming more complicated these days. It's very difficult to tell the level of risk a technology has. I give you an instance. Sometime, is it late last year or early this year? This robot cleaner, I've forgotten the name. It's an automated cleaner that's used for house cleaning. Was captured naked pictures of a lady that was using a bathroom. It was all about. I think if you Google it, you can see it. And then a couple of weeks later, the pictures landed on Facebook. So, I mean, how would you tell that a cleaner that is just cleaning the house has the capacity, but it has cameras, it has to use some image recognition to know where to clean and what not to clean. That's how the technology is built. But then how can you define, especially with the complicated nature of machine learning systems these days? You have no idea what machines have been programmed to learn in the process. So this is one of the very the problems with categorization of AI. I'm not saying the categorization is wrong, it's always there, but it's just at the very basic level. It's difficult to tell. The same drones that can be used to deliver medical services to persons in war fronts, those same drones can also be used to deliver weapons or drop bombs on civilians. So that's the problem with that categorization. Like I said here, it's near impossible to have that categorization in a very strict sense. Secondly, or maybe the last point for that presentation, yeah, you talked about the fact, the requirements of regulatory boards for AI itself. And I mean, this has been my very personal opinion with regards conversations on AI. And I think this is where we're still dragging on the issue. I'm going to make this comment more elaborated when I'm commenting on the second presentation. We are keeping so much attention on the system itself, the technology itself. And it seems, I mean, it's a general thing. Most people are talking about the technology. The technology is unfair, the technology is fair, the technology is this and that. But we're not looking at the people that are designing the technology. So in as much as we try to regulate what technology should be available, I also think, like we have regulatory boards for training medical doctors and lawyers, we should also have regulations as to who designs the software. Because whether we like it or not, artificial intelligence, whatever technologies they come up with, are just a replica of the mentality, of the mental state of the person that designed it. Everything you find, no matter how complicated the system is, it's just a system of ones and zeros. Somebody wrote some codes at the background, and so if we do not regulate the people that design the systems, we are going to have regulations for systems and human beings that find loopholes in regulations. Of course, lawyers, we know we always find loopholes for everything. So this is one of the things I always like to point out. We have conversations everywhere in the world. The EU AI Act is mostly talks about AI. The ones that really talk about human beings once in a while would go to how data is collected and this data related issues basically. So personal opinion, I stand to be corrected, of course. I think we also need to regulate the people that design these systems. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of regulations for AI, and then we'll have people. Of course, we have laws that define how people should drive, but people still kill people and go home scot-free. There's always going to be loopholes here and there. But then, as much as we allow the people to do what they like, unquote, without regulating, we're still going to have problems as much as we would want to prevent that. That's for the first one. And okay, yeah, I think there's another point I noted. This is the last one for group one. The presenter asks, what happens where the path changes? Machines, the paths are defined. For instance, in the case of a surgery, cut this person open, remove this, close it back, and get going. If you cut the person open, for instance, in instances where the positioning of the heart of the person is different, we have 99% of human beings on earth have their hearts on the left side, but there's a percentage of people that have the heart on the right side. You know, there's this switch of systems in the body. I've actually met one person like that. So, but this is what happens with the nature of machine learning. You know, I'm not going to go into that, but understand that there's even this discussion that there's almost nothing the human mind can think that cannot be coded into a machine. It's just to transfer that and have a machine that has a structure that is capable of doing that. So if the human mind can imagine an alternative, then you can code alternative into systems. If you do programming, I do a bit of programming with Python, you would see if else statements. That's what we call them. If this, then do this, else do this. So you can have if else statements for almost anything that you can imagine in your mind. If the person I'm about to shoot is a child, abort mission. Otherwise, shoot. If the person is pregnant, abort mission. If the person is wearing a military uniform, shoot. If the person is wearing a military uniform, but is a child, abort mission. So you can have all these alternatives, and then the machines can learn. Of course, the concept is very, sorry, my Siri is just, so the concept is even wider now. It's so wide that people are beginning to presume, of course, I mean, so that it's possible to program as many alternatives into systems as possible. This is something that is still in the works. There are still conversations about this. So this is something I'd like us to note, that the alternatives are there. You drive to a traffic light, the light is not working. If you told the system, when it's red, stop. When it's green, go. You can also say, if there is no red or green, then use your camera and check the surrounding around you. People do this. You can program. There are many systems that have this. Your phones have these systems. It's just there. Most of us don't use it. Okay, so thank you to group one. Quickly on group two talked more about AI ethics. It's usually a very complicated discussion. Most technologists do not like ethicists because the presumption is once you start having discussions about ethics, once you start having discussions about ethics, the technologists begin to think this is that ethics generally, not just law, basically ethics, slows down the development of technology. Anyway, if you walk into any laboratory and start asking them how ethical is what you're doing, they'll start telling you you're here to slow us down, please don't even go. So that's where we have that first complication. Once you start having discussions about AI ethics, you have people right now, NGOs, I think 2 weeks ago, NGOs have been excluded from contributing to the AI regulatory framework in the EU, I think also in the US. So if the governments, people, companies are fighting back. Nobody wants to talk about ethics in AI. And you could see it in as many places as possible. These are just recommendations. Actual implementations are quite difficult because everyone is fighting back. Nobody really wants to any restraints on the technology that they can provide. So I'm very happy that this came up. Then again, to the issue of can we code ethics? Can artificial intelligence machine, so to speak, be ethical? Can it know right or wrong? Like I said earlier, these things are still in the works. There are discussions and there are very strong presumptions to the fact that anything that a human being can imagine, if a human being can decipher what is right from wrong, then you can pass this information to a machine and insist that it sticks to that rule. So it's a yes or no thing, but then we are getting at the pace of development. I personally believe that there's almost nothing that you cannot convert into ones and zeros and find a machine that can do it. So that's for that. And finally, the presenter did mention that I didn't see that on the slide, but I think I heard it in passing when she said, well, these things are not happening anymore. I'm sorry to tell you that it's even happening more. The issue of biases in AI systems, it's happening a lot more. You'd see reports as of 2016. There's this NGO, ProPublica. They had some research. They did some studies, and they realized that there's this AI in US, this technology that they use to predict high risk scores for criminals. And they use it very strongly. Many states in the US have been using it. And they realize that there's a higher risk score for blacks than whites. A black person does hit somebody in a car, a white person hits somebody in a car. Both of them are put in the system. And the risk score for the black person is 86%, for the white person is 20%. And you know, we have lots of this. It's everywhere. Most of the very minor systems. We had Google had the same issue sometime, I think 2015. The skin tone, it you know, misread the skin tone. You'd see, if you Google, you'd see where they say the image identification was wrong. A black person or a white person has this hand thermometer, and because it's a white person's hand, it says that it's a medical equipment. A black hand holds the same thing and identifies it as a weapon. So most of these things are still there. In very recent days, you'd see so many of them. Some of them are hidden until you get into in-depth studies, especially in the US and some parts of Europe. You may never hear these things because somehow you don't see the codes, you just see the system. You get arrested for doing a particular thing and you're trying to save yourself. You're not trying to look at the system that reported you. You're trying to just get out of jail. So it's difficult, especially in those situations. So once again, thank you so much. If I remember any other thing at some point, maybe I would mention that. And I hope I'll be able to answer all your questions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for the contribution and answering our questions. So I will still try and call on Mr. Akin if he's with us. We still have the floor for him to make his own comments. If he's not available while we are waiting for him, we are moving on to the picture session. So we normally take screenshots of. Okay, I think Mr. Akin is unmuting himself.
Yeah, I actually sent you a message to explain. I've been juggling 2 meetings.
I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, I actually dropped a message for you to explain. I've been juggling 2 meetings, so like I'm in here and another place. That's why I have not been able to speak for a while because I had to be in another place at the same time. But I've been following the presentations.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I'll introduce myself. My name is Akintini Agumbiade. I am a lawyer based in Nigeria. I work with ALEX. It's a top corporate commercial law firm in Nigeria. My work focuses on technology, media, telecommunications clients. I am a certified AI systems auditor with focus on the UK and EU GDPR. I'm also a member of the committee that is working on drafting Nigeria's national AI policy. And my work in the committee is mainly focused on issues regarding AI risk classifications and bias mitigation and remediation. So I will just give a few comments because I know I've taken a lot of time here. On the presentations, I followed both presentations and there's just something that I noted down which I just want to clarify or explain more. One of the presentations touched on some of the benefits of AI governance. And one thing that I think you can add to that, the benefit of AI governance, is the issue of interoperability. In the sense that AI governance, helps us to progressively achieve a system where standards for AI in different parts of the world can speak to each other. Because we have our own efforts in Nigeria, what we are working on trying to build in an AI policy for Nigeria. This policy would in turn inform future legislations and other government policies that relate to the AI space. The policy document is still in formation, so I can't say, okay, this is how it will look like when it is finally done. But we are trying to build something that is tailored to Nigeria. So let's imagine other countries are doing something like this. Egypt is doing something similar. Rwanda is doing something similar. South Africa is doing something similar. The EU has its EU AI Act that is working on the liability directive. So I can't really present my video right now, so I would like to just stick to audio because, like I said, I'm juggling two meetings at the same time, so I can't really offer video right now. Sorry. So, like I said, another benefit of the AI governance in the world would be interoperability. And then there was something that one of them mentioned about surveillance and how the benefit that might come from. I feel that surveillance is an issue that we need to be, what's the word now? We need to tread carefully with. Because especially when it is combined with things like facial recognition, it can become an issue that impacts human rights. And I'll explain why. In most crimes, surveillance cameras are not made in Nigeria or they are not made here. So if you couple them with facial recognition technologies, they're actually trained on data sets that are not reflective of us. That's one. And these systems are capable of, I know there's someone I know in the space who said that there was one time when he's a Nigerian, he's an AI expert, JK Photo. He said that one time when he traveled to China and he went to like a surveillance camera of like getting entry to a place, he could not identify him. But there have been other issues, other black people have faced issues like this. So surveillance cameras might look good for a set of, with AI pictures that they can help to detect who is a criminal, who is not. But there's also the issue of what data set was it trained with, and how effectively can it recognize African faces or Nigerian faces. So that's why, if because of a camera that was trained with a data set that's not representative of you as a Nigerian, you're not able to gain entry to a certain place, or you're not able to access a feature like that. Like for instance, there are several apps now on your phone that, okay, you want to verify your identity. They tell you, show your face on your camera, and then your face is well aligned, and then it takes a picture of you. So, okay, yes, this face matches on your identity. The reason why it is able to do that is because it was trained on a data set that is, let's say, representative of the average African features of an average African face. If it was trained with a data set that is not representative of you, that app would have issues recognizing you, and then because you cannot access that app or use that tool. So that is one issue that AI governance has to take note of. The issue of representativeness of underlying data set for which AI systems are built. And there's something that I found quite interesting in one of the presentations about yes, the risk classification, because it's the part that I am currently working on, the national AI policy, where you talked about high risk, minimal risk. I think more like you gave like four classifications. So it is something that we are also working on in the committee, trying to classify different cadres of AI risk in Nigeria. So one of the factors that we are considering in terms of classifying risk for AI in Nigeria are 7 things. One of the things that we are considering is how long is the risk in question. So is it the case that the risk is something that will extend for a long period of time, or is it like a very brief period that risk will last? Another thing is the risk default. So is it the fact that if I'm using this thing now, I am automatically at risk, or is it the fact that, okay, yes, if I use this thing, I can toggle some settings in this and the risk will be mitigated. So this is something like a risk assessment system. Now, I think Mr. Gabriel made mention of something like that, like in the USA. Someone who is put before a risk assessment system, you cannot avoid it. It's already going to be used to assess your data, to come with an assessment of you. So the risk is default. Another thing we are considering is the level of autonomy that the system grants you. Does it come with high levels of human autonomy? Does it come with very low levels of autonomy? Chatbots are an example of AI. Chatbots come with high levels of autonomy. If you want to, you don't have to use a chatbot to talk to a customer representative of a bank or any other institution, but something that is like a deep fake now. A deep fake comes with very low levels of autonomy because you cannot easily discern that this is not a deep fake of, let me think, of Buhari now. You cannot easily discern that this is not Buhari, but it's just an image that has been contorted to make look like him and sound like him. Another thing we're also considering for risk classification is things like individual versus community risk. So is the AI system in question here? Does it pose risks to just you, the user? Does it pose risks to every one of us as a community with common characteristics? Like, take for instance now, going back to the example that Mr. Gabriel used of the risk assessment system. If that system now, if let's say if I were before that system, and it's given a sense of me that, okay, yes, I am 80% likely to commit a crime, it doesn't just give that assessment of me, it also learns from that assessment. So it learns that, okay, anybody who looks like Akintunde, who has the same professional background, who has the same occupation, who has the same income that comes before, the person is likely going to be in the same pool. So the risk affects not just me alone, but every other person who has common characteristics like me. So that's another thing. We also consider things like its impact on human rights. Okay, so it's something like a recommendation engine now that, okay, recommends YouTube algorithm or Netflix algorithm. Doesn't have any impact on your human rights if it's the movie it recommends to you. But something like a deep fake can affect your human rights, because if a deep fake plays on your right to information, because it disinforms you and it also manipulates you into thinking that someone has said something, and it could also provoke people into doing things that provoke people into people into doing things that otherwise you might not do. Another factor that we're also considering for risk classification in Nigeria is also trying to consider, is this technology likely going to trigger peculiar risks in Nigeria you'll not find in other markets? So let's say, for instance, now something like so let's say something like, going back to the example of a deep fake now. A deep fake in other parts of the world now is always dangerous. But if you brought a deep fake, like now we're in election season in Nigeria, if I brought a deep fake to you and I use like a religious leader in Nigeria who says something that, okay, Christians are so and so, Muslims are so and so, a prominent religious leader, just imagine a prominent religious leader saying that kind of thing, and create a deep fake of him saying that kind of thing. You could easily, within the next 24 hours, trigger a wave of religious or ethnic violence just by passing that, using a deep fake to send a wrong message about what someone said or not. That is a risk that is peculiar to Nigeria because of our own history and our own ethnic and religious tensions. That is another element that we're trying to consider and trying to classify AI risks in Nigeria. So the presentations were like, this is like, I think my first time of joining cohorts as a mentor for AI technology under JIIPCC, and I mean every time it seems like the mentees keep getting better, and the presentations are always like a lot more professional every time. So I just commend the commitment you guys are giving to this, and I'm still here. So if there are any other comments or any questions, I can always clarify. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akin, for your comments and lecture. We learned a lot and we'll take a lot of notes from everything you say. So quickly, we'll be taking the picture session before we move to the question and answer session. I encourage everybody to put on their videos on and we'll take a quick picture, group picture for 2 minutes before we move on. And please, we can smile for the camera, please. Okay, thank you very much. I got that. So quickly, I will be reading questions that were sent by mentees before this program for our mentors. But while I'm doing that, if you have any question that pops up on your head that you want to ask about the program today, the session for today, you can just indicate by raising your hand on the group and on the call, and I will just call on you to ask your questions. Okay. So quickly, I'll see the question from on the group chat. That's the question we got before the session. And I'll be calling on our group mentors to give us a question. So that's the question on the chat box. Instead of having different AI regulations for each country, why don't countries decide to come to a common ground and make one unified AI governance and regulation framework that in turn will adopt by the countries that are ready for AI implementation? Did you get that, Mr. Gabriel and Mr. Akin?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Okay, Mr. Gabriel, you can go first.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very happy.
Because if not, anybody can call and say I'm sick today. I'm sick today. It's actually the policy actually said that the one that you're sick, you meant to go to the hospital.
Sorry. Okay, sorry, I was getting distracted by the voice from the background. Yeah, like I said, I'm very happy that Mr. Akin is here, and he happens to be part of the committee that's working on our local policies, our local AI policies or recommendations that will likely be available. And so why I'm excited about that is from studies. I mentioned last year I went for a conference in Sweden, and a company was talking about importing technologies and then I asked, do you know the cultural framework to start with, the socio-cultural situation of Africa that you're sending the technology to? And they say, no, we don't need to, we just need to regulate it. We send the technology and send the regulation. And I said, no, you can't send regulations like that. We are tired of using laws that we got from Britain, some that they are not still using anymore, that we are still using, like the Infant Relief Act and many of these others. We're tired of importing regulations. So it's very exciting to know that Nigeria is also doing something actively to have, to have our own frameworks that are locally, because it's okay to get information from the international community, but we need to study the socio-cultural background of the people. We can't just get laws, from anywhere, or we can't, whether they are regulations or just recommendations. There are regulations that might work in Europe, but would never work in Africa. There are recommendations that can work in Africa. If you bring them to Europe, they'll fail, and there's a very thin line to making this mistake. As it is already, we have many countries in the last few weeks. I've been involved in a study that realized that many countries are just waiting for the big boys to get their regulations in place, and then they'll just make photocopies and change the title, change US to Nigeria, and then the House of Assembly says, yeah, we like it. And then you realize it's like buying trains, because everyone is buying trains, and you realize we don't even have the railways to run it in Nigeria. So that's exactly what would happen if we import regulations. So first, because we need to study our sociocultural, the law has to understand the sociocultural ideologies of the people. You can't just bring laws from a different society and try to implement it. Secondly, and this is the very sincere thing that most people won't talk about, we have a very lazy legislature. And it's a huge problem that we pretend not to see. But this is one of our biggest problems, because we can also bring a law and by virtue of Article 12, Section 12 of the Constitution, pass the law through the usual processes of the usual legislative processes, and they'll still give us that local flavor. But since we are not going to do that, it's safer we start everything from the scratch at home. Because if we bring anything, by the time it gets to the House of Assembly and the the Senate, they'll just pass it in 2 days, and it goes and it goes, and then you start seeing mistakes in laws, and they mention names of European cities and stuff like that. So this is why I think it's better that we have our own local legislation that has been locally brewed. And there must be consultations, local consultations. Let's know what our people think about this laws, instead of just grabbing something from somewhere, or getting a framework that is already designed for another society and trying to implement it back in Nigeria. So this is my opinion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gabriel, for wonderful answer. I'll be calling on Mr. Akin also to give us his answer and his insight on the question. And also reading the next question that was posted on the chat box. So Mr. Akin, over to you, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So the question is about instead of having different AI regulations in each country, why don't countries have a common ground that wants unified AI governance framework? So I can say that we already have something like this. For instance, we have the UN, we have the UNESCO recommendations on AI ethics. We have the OECD AI principles. The OECD is I think over 30 developed countries. So we already have countries that have come together to set up like a common set of AI principles that they agree on. So countries in the OECD have theirs. The UNESCO has its own. And I can tell you that at least for our work in national AI policy, our work is split into different aspects. I am part of the subcommittee working on the ethics aspect of it. There are people working on the education part, people working on the health part, agri part, security part. And I know that the people working on the education part really studied the UNESCO AI recommendations. So there are international instruments, there are not so many of them. Okay, to be fair, they are not as many as you would find on conventions on human rights. You find conventions on war. They are not as many or as popular, but there's an emerging body of common principles. The challenge we have with them is that they are usually being built along the lines of the way the world is currently being divided. So some of you who follow international affairs, you know that, okay, there's this divide between countries on the West, countries on the East. So that is the issue that I think is beginning to affect international AI governance, in the sense that we are seeing that some of these common principles, some of these common principles are being divided out. So you would see that countries that ally with China probably ally on one side, and then the countries who are maybe a lot more Western, a lot more democratic in outlook, would have their own set of principles. So that I think that would be like the future challenge in terms of AI governance. How can the whole world come together and say, okay, this is our own common body? Like we have in the UN Convention on Human Rights now. Everybody in the whole world, at least most countries in the world, I would say, are signatory to it. Whether they all implement it is a different thing, but most countries in the world are signatory to it. But in a world that's become a lot more polarized, that polarization is likely going to affect international AI governance in terms of being able to build a common front in terms of what international AI governance should look like. What are there attempts at AI governance by countries coming together? Yes, there are. If we even have, yes, I remember it now. On the African level, I know that the AU and Nepal are working on a Pan-African AI strategy. I know that as at September last year, they said, I think I reached out and they said they are getting to the review stage of the proposal. It's not public. I don't know how far they've gone with it. But I know that at the AU level, they are working on a continental strategy for the whole of Africa as regards an AI strategy for Africa. So there are efforts towards AI governance frameworks. Thank you. Hello?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Akin. Thank you very much for the answer. I'll read a question that was posted by Precious Mweke. As a law student involved in the AI space, what advice would you give to them? I think she's on the call, so you need to elaborate more on that your question, please. Kindly unmute yourself, Precious.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yeah,
hear you.
my name is Umike Precious. So I meant, as law students interested in the AI space, what advice would you give to them? Like, what career paths? Like, what are the things that you think they should be involved in? That's question. That's what I mean.
Okay. I think Mr. Gabriel, you can go first on the answer.
Okay, as easy as that question sounds, it's really complicated because first of all, I'm trying to understand whether you're asking for the things you should be doing or what career paths you should be thinking about. So first of all, if you're asking for the things you should be doing, as far as you're in school, in the university or in the law school, of course, you know those areas of law that first of all find where there is a relationship between, if you want to delve into AI later, you find where there's a relationship between AI and law. Like I found most of those places in human rights, humanitarian law, and all that. So you find an area that interests you first and forms like a junction between law and artificial intelligence. There are so many of them, and every day we keep having, as the technologies evolve, we keep having these new areas. You're lucky you're still in school when these changes are happening, so it's easy to take a decision now. Some of us discovered it a little late, I should say, and then well, we still found our way around. That's the one. And then if you're looking at what you should be looking forward to, that again would depend on your personal choices. Where do you have your interest in? But there are so many areas. There are human rights lawyers, like strictly human rights lawyers, who are also into AI, because there's always the relationship between the use of artificial intelligence and human rights. There are others with intellectual property and all that. So it all depends on what decision you take. And once you've taken that decision, you start building your networks towards that. Find people that are specialists. There's a specialist in almost every area of AI now. If you go on LinkedIn, you find so many people in IP, people in human rights, people in humanitarian law, so many areas. People in ethics. There's AI ethicists. Yeah. So basically, it depends on what your intention, what area you have your interest in. Then you would certainly find something that suits your future career plan. That's
All right, thank you very much, sir. Mr. Akin can also contribute to that answer.
Oh, okay. So I think that for someone who wants to build competencies as a law student in the AI space, I think one thing I would recommend first of all is that you try as much as possible to initially cover the field, in terms of try as much as possible to understand as much as you can about AI. Even though you are a non-tech person, but you should try to understand the technical aspect of it. So reading things about, as boring or as technical as it might sound, reading things about machine learning, neural networks, deep learning. It's not that you want to go into coding or you want to become an AI developer, but it's necessary that you understand how those things work. Because if you are going to eventually become an ethicist or work in the policy aspect or work in the auditing aspect of it, whichever aspect of AI you want to eventually specialize in, you need to understand how the underlying technology works. How does the recommendation engine work? How does it deliver recommendations? How does a Gaussian algorithm work? What are neural networks? You need to understand what those things are. So that's on one part. Another thing is you need to work on your level of awareness. So being able to keep track of what is happening in the field. It's a very, very busy space. Every week something is happening. So one thing that can help you is using stuff like Google Alerts, setting up an alert things happening in space. So maybe set up like AI policy, AI ethics, AI Nigeria, AI in, use that to at least give yourself, you can get updates every week about what is happening. So that way you are a lot more aware of what is happening and how you can build yourself along those lines. Or another thing you're going to work on is, as much as possible, you learn by doing. So it's not just about reading about these things or following what's happening, but also trying to practice them yourself. So why do I mean by practicing? Trying to write about them, trying to initiate discussions with your peers or with any other person who shares your interest. So as much as possible, the more you're able to talk about these things, the more you're able to really confirm that I understand this concept. And then as the time goes on, you would eventually say, okay, yes, I think the aspect of AI I am more interested in, the aspect that has to do with the ethics part of it, or I am more interested in the policy aspect of it, or I am more interested in the data protection, data management aspect of it. Because it's a broad field and there are still other subfields in this, or I'm more interested in matters involving maybe litigation or liability issues around AI. But first of all, you have to, first of course, you're a law student, try to first of all cover the base and understand, get a broad understanding of everything. Subscribe to stuff like the Google Alerts I mentioned, so you at least you are updated on what is happening in the space. You would find that a lot of the activity is happening in Europe and in North America. And then there's some things in Asia, but Africa is still like, compared to Africa, is still like, well, it's still very quiet. Although things are happening, but it's not as much as, you'll find a lot more activity in Europe and in North America. But what a lot of what they do there, even though I would not advise, and at least I would not say that we should copy them, but at least, well, I would say that at least in the list, it inspires what we do. So we look at, okay, this is what the EU AI Act is talking about. Okay, we don't want to copy this, but this is how you, this is how we can implement this. Yeah, so I think that's what someone who is a law student who wants to gain competence in AI, who is interested in the space, can work on. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Akin and Mr. Gabriel. Precious, I hope that answers your question to satisfaction. So we are still calling on mentees to ask questions before the end of the session. This is the opportunity you have to ask the mentors your questions. Aside this time, it should be on the next session, and that will be on another topic. So if there's anything regarding AI ethics and governance you want to know, you can ask our mentors before the end of the call. And quickly, I'll be calling on Mr. Joe, who is the co-founder of JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program, to give us a closing remark before the end of the program. Mr. Joe, you can unmute yourself.
All right. Thank you so very much, everyone. On behalf of the entire team, I would like to express and extend my heartfelt vote of thanks to our mentors, Mr. Gabriel and Mr. Akin, for participating in today's mentorship and internship program in artificial intelligence. I want to acknowledge your dedication, your hard work. It's been truly inspiring to have listened to the mentees today. It will amaze you that the first things I actually said was something I actually picked out from openai.com. I just typed in some things and I was like, okay, let me see what the machine is going to tell me to talk about in terms of the vote of thanks. So it's still a whole lot of paragraphs here I haven't read, but it's quite interesting how artificial intelligence is really going to be influencing our lives, whether we know it in one way or the other. You use mobile phones, you use electronic devices, all of these things have their own share of AI's influence. So let me become a real human being and give my vote of thanks. Thank you so very much, Mr. Gabriel. I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Akin. I appreciate you. I also very well appreciate the mentees who made presentations today. I've actually learned so much from all of you today. And for everyone else in all the groups, thank you for participating and for contributing. I'm sure that this is just the beginning and we're all warming up. We still have another 7 more weeks to go by the special grace of God. So I just want to encourage us as much as you can. Let's step up the conversation beyond what we are doing here on Zoom. You can tag your mentors, tag whoever you need to tag. Let's keep the buzz on going and keep talking about AI as much as we can. Also, it would be nice for us to also see how we can get our friends involved. I've gone beyond the vote of thanks already, but finally, I would say I appreciate the efforts everyone has put in to ensure that today's program is actually a success. Mr. Gabriel, we missed seeing you at the airport the last time you were in the country. Hopefully, we'll have another opportunity.
I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. The whole thing was, it was an ideal situation. So, but thank you for
so much.
taking the time. And thank you also.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Gabriel. And quickly before we leave, I think a mentee's hand is raised, so let us hear out. Edith Fitz, kindly unmute yourself and tell us what you want to say. Edith Fitz, I can't hear you. Can we all hear her?
Yes, good afternoon. I feel I sent in the question, but it's like it didn't come during the question and answer session. I feel
I'm sorry, your voice is cracking.
Sorry, sir. If you go through the comments, I think you sent in a question in the comment session already.
Yeah, I've seen well, I think it's a comment that he just something that Mr. King has probably been to.
Okay, about what he said on the comment section, on the chat box. Sorry, I think that's not related to our topic for today. That was why I didn't ask the question. So please, I hope you can hear me. That was like a recommendation on how we should run the program. So I will surely pass that message across to the administrators. So what we are asking here is for AI. What we are here is for AI governance and ethics. So if you have questions, please, it should be strictly on that. Thank you very much. Edith Faith. Okay, we've come to the end of today's program. Thank you everybody for joining us today. We hope to see you next week in good health and wealth. At the same time, my final comment will be the forthcoming election. Please, everybody get your PVC ready, and you already know the right person. I don't need to tell you. Please, get your PVC. I went to get mine last week. They didn't give me, so I'll try and get it as soon as possible. If I get it, I'll show you guys here. I'll bring it here so that you see. So please, everybody, get your PVC. If you are in school, take permission and go and vote, please. We need good leaders so that all these AI governance and regulations that we've been talking about, so that they can actually come to reality. That's what I think. So please, thank you everybody. Have an amazing weekend. Have fun and unwind. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye to you too.